Both our mom and dad were from the Midwest. They both came out to California with their families during the Depression. Our dad, William George James, Bill, joined the Navy at the age of 17, just before Pearl Harbor. He served as a corpsman in the Pacific attached with the Marines. His job was to tend to the wounded on the front line. He was in the Battle of Guadalcanal and as well as Tarawa, which is considered one of the bloodiest battles for the U.S. Marines. Once back in the U.S., he met my mom, Nyla Marie Griffin, while on leave in Richmond, California. On the third night, he proposed as his leave was ending. 2 weeks later, she took a train to Morro Bay, where they were married by an Army chaplain. A little over a year after the marriage, Ron was born in Oakland, while my dad was out to sea. A little over a year after that, Rich was born at Balboa Naval Hospital in San Diego. The family lived in Oceanside in San Diego in naval housing while Dad divided his time between ship and shore duty working as a medic. In 1953, Greg was delivered at Balboa Hospital. Shortly after that, the whole family moved to Adak, in what was then the territory of Alaska, at the western end of the Aleutian Island chain. This remote island Navy facility was 1,200 miles from Anchorage and the most westerly municipality in the United States. For our dad, an avid hunter and fisherman, this was paradise. For our mother, raising 3 boys in a place where it was cold and overcast most of the year, this was not the ideal duty station. After a few years, the family moved back to sunny San Diego. They bought a house in East San Diego near College Grove. I was born at Balboa Hospital about this time. A year and a half later, Pat was born at Grossmont Hospital in La Mesa. Surprise! In 1959, a girl, Kelly, was born also at Grossmont. Yes, there is a sister. It is hard to imagine how our mom, Nyla, managed with 2 teenage boys, a 6-year-old, 2 toddlers, and an infant. She truly had the patience of a saint. In 1962, the family moved to Oakland, all except for Ron, who stayed behind with the neighbors to graduate from Crawford High School. While stationed as a pharmacist mate at Oakland Naval Hospital, our dad became Master Chief, the highest enlisted rank in the Navy. Ron soon joined the family in Oakland, where he enrolled at San Jose State. This being the height of the Vietnam War, and with a little fatherly persuasion, Ron enlisted into the United States Navy. About that time, Rich graduated from Castlemont High School, where he was a star swimmer. When he wasn't surfing in Santa Cruz, Rich spent a year at community college before he enlisted into the Navy, much to the delight of our father. Ron spent 4 years in the Navy on the East Coast and on ships in the Atlantic. Rich mainly served on aircraft carriers in the Pacific, sometimes off the coast of Vietnam. After 25 years and 3 wars, our dad retired from the Navy. The family moved to Redding, California, a place where my dad spent time hunting and fishing on nearby Lake Shasta. After their 4-year stint in the Navy, Rich and Ron joined us in Redding. Ron with a new wife. When Rich was in protest in the Vietnam War, he was an entrepreneur, opening the first head shop in Redding. Ron became a top salesman at a local car dealership while attending Shasta College, where he became student body president. After high school, Greg started at Shasta College, made jewelry for Rich's head shop, and worked at a pizza parlor. Soon after, he met Donna Cooperrider. Next year marks the 46th anniversary of their wedding. At 25, Ron and his wife moved to Orange County, where he got his bachelor's degree from Fullerton State. He also became the top salesman for Dr. Scholl's, bought a bar, In 1973, he sold the bar, got a divorce, and moved to South Mission Beach to start a new life. During this time, he started an advertising agency and published La Jolla magazine. Rich enrolled in Chico State, where he would eventually get a bachelor's degree in graphic design. In 1974, after graduating early from high school, I started at Shasta College. During high school, Pat worked at a local country club where he cleaned golf clubs and worked around the pro shop. Pat's boss was offered a golf pro position near Santa Barbara. Impressed by Pat's work ethic, he asked him to become part of the team in Goleta. Kelly got married shortly after high school and stayed in Redding to raise her family. With little opportunities in Redding, on New Year's Day 1975, Greg, Donna, Rich, and his girlfriend Melanie moved to Point Loma. They would soon join Ron in Ocean Beach to explore their options. The brothers immediately knew Ocean Beach was where they were meant to be, a place where they could create a new life in a laid-back live and let live environment. Ron was drawn to Ocean Beach in 1975, where he started his second advertising agency, First Impressions, on Santa Monica Avenue. First Impressions moved to the second story of the Kraft building on the corner of Newport and Bacon. Rich and Greg then started Graphic Impressions, which did pre-press for publications. Looking to expand the business, Ron suggested screen printing, something he had done in college. With yet having the required equipment, Ron and Rich went out to make their first sale. They ended up in a small bar on Park Boulevard called No Peanuts Today. After sitting at the bar for many hours, they convinced the owner to make an order for t-shirts. The James Gang was officially in business. Greg made their first press. While rudimentary, it worked. Using that press and air-dry ink, the first custom t-shirt order was delivered. Unfortunately, the first order's profit was just enough to cover the bar bill. Soon, other orders came rolling in. The problem was there wasn't enough room to hang all the t-shirts while they air-dried. As luck would have it, the brothers met another entrepreneur, Florida Craig. He was in shipping. They never asked what he shipped back and forth from Florida to California. They just knew he was willing to invest in their new venture. The James Gang now had decent screen printing equipment and a dryer to expand. Greg was responsible for printing and maintaining the equipment. Rich oversaw the graphic design while Ron did sales and marketing. Having graduated from Shasta College, I came to San Diego at the end of summer of 1976 to go to SDSU. I started working part-time with the brothers, folding and bagging shirts. After visiting Ocean Beach from Santa Barbara, Pat too heard the call and joined us in the fall of 1976. That Christmas, the older brothers presented Pat and I with an ownership share. The gang was complete. With a motto of quality service and no BS, the business expanded rapidly. We even paid back Florida Craig. We were now running out of room, so we started sharing a space with Horn Furniture and Television, a declining business at 4905 Newport Avenue. To both our benefit, we were able to take over the lease. In 1977, we took over the entire building with a new retail space up front and an expanded printing shop with an office in the back. In our new location, we purchased new equipment. Multiple 4-color presses, pocket printers, sleeve printers, hat printers, and a new dryer that could handle the capacity. We even brought in a 6-head embroidery machine. We also hired new employees to run the presses, fold the shirts, to do the books, to take the orders, to create the designs. We were lucky over the years to have dedicated and talented employees whose time at the James Gang made an indelible mark on their lives and the lives of the brothers. Employees like Del Siedenquist, whose talent as a graphic artist was a major factor in the James Gang's success. Others like Janice, Jimmy Sticks, Sam, Woody, Peabody, Dennis, Skip Bob, the Barbs, and the Brown Brothers, and hundreds more were and will always be an integral part of the James Gang lore. Our customers were varied. Bars and restaurants like Rubio's and Soup Plantation, most of the sport fishing boats in San Diego, corporations like the new Qualcomm, events like the street scene and St. Patrick's Day Parade. Every type of business and organization seemed to want custom t-shirts, golf shirts, sweatshirts, and hats. On moving to the new location, the James Gang also got into the retail market, not only selling our popular designs like Rich's OB Bird and the University of Ocean Beach, but beachwear and accessories as well. At one time, we had 3 locations in San Diego, and we opened a store for our mom to manage in Redding. The James Gang were also screen printers for the dart world. During the 80s and early 90s, the brothers traveled across the United States from Hawaii to New Jersey, selling thousands of official Del Siegenquist designed shirts, hats, and other custom garments at dart tournaments. For the first few years, our business grew by leaps and bounds. Competition also grew. With it, customers demanded competitive pricing. By 1980, we now had 15 employees, and for the first time, the business grossed over $1 million. In 1990, we lost our lease on Newport Avenue. For the brothers, it was important to keep the business in Ocean Beach. After much negotiation and buying an existing offset print shop, the James Gang was able to move into the old bowling alley building on Bacon Street. But the cost of the move timed with a recession, the business struggled. The boom days were over. Susan James joined the James Gang in 1992, and with Pat, worked tirelessly for the next 2 decades to keep the business going through thick and thin. With the economic downturn of 2008, and with the banks tightening their belts, in 2011, they came to the realization that the only way to save the James Gang was to sell it. Fortunately, employees husband and wife Paul and Leanne Burse offered to buy the business with their friends Jim and Elizabeth Burgundies. With their commitment to the community of Ocean Beach, the new owners continued the legacy of the James Gang, started 5 decades earlier. For the brothers, it was not about making the big bucks, because that never happened. It was about the freedom to live and work at the beach, to travel when and where we wanted, to create lifelong relationships, and the opportunity to give back to the community.
Jumping down the OB Christmas tree. Whoop, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Jumping down the OB tree.
Do you have sound for that?
In 1980, Rich and Ron sat in the Sunshine Company Saloon, exchanging ideas on how to once again bring the community together. Rich talked of bringing in a Christmas tree like they had at Rockefeller Center in New York. And as the story has been told hundreds of times over the years, the more they drank, the taller the tree became. Within weeks, all of the logistics were figured out, and with the fundraising well underway, Rich, with his truck driver friend Kenny, headed in a semi to the Mount Shasta area to pick up a prearranged 70-foot star pine. On a crisp December day, the tree was expertly placed in the sand by SDG&E. Rich, later that night, went from bar to bar, handing out kazoos to his friends, who then gathered in the middle of Newport Avenue to follow Rich as he marched down the street to admire the OB tree. This was the beginning of the OB Holiday Parade. For Ron, it was always go big or go home. When Ron first proposed an art festival, no one can imagine what the final result would be. To bring together the best in San Diego art, music, and cuisine to Collier Sunset Park in Ocean Beach was a huge accomplishment. But then to add the full San Diego Symphony was the piece de resistance. To repeat this event would have been too daunting of a task. For Ron, the effort was well worth it, especially since one of the committee members was Mary Hellman, who a couple years later would become his wife. In the late 90s, Rich was very much in the artist mode, painting whenever he had the chance. One of his projects was working with young students to create murals for their school. This is where he started using the grid system, where every child would be assigned a square of the mural. Rich proposed to the Main Street Association to create a community mural at the annual street fair using the grid system. Now these community murals are an integral part of the Ocean Beach landscape. After Rich passed, former James Gang employee and professional muralist Janice Ambrosini has kept the tradition going. Pat became fascinated with Ocean Beach history after reading Ruth Held's book, Beach Town. With his wife Susan, he jumped at the chance to be part of the formation of the Ocean Beach Historical Society. After years on the board, Pat was elected president, with Susan becoming treasurer. I'm sure no one imagined that they would hold those positions for another 14 years. With all great accomplishments, there are always the unsung heroes. While Greg's biggest commitment was raising his family, he was always there with his support and his tireless work behind the scenes. I was one of the founders of the Ocean Beach Merchants Association, which is now the Main Street Association. I served as its first vice president, and at the age of 23 became president. I later served a second term in 1983. During my first term in 1980, I proposed to the board of directors to bring back the fireworks off the OB Pier, an event that had ended 5 years earlier due to a lack of sponsorship. A few years later, the street fair was added, and shortly after that, the chili cook-off. I continued to volunteer in different capacities for the Ocean Beach Street Fair into the late 90s. In 1988, after serving on its board, I became Ocean Beach Town Council President, and later that year, co-chair of the Ocean Beach Centennial. This year marks my 35th time as auctioneer at the Ocean Beach Holiday Auction fundraiser, and my 39th year announcing at the Ocean Beach Christmas Tree Lighting and Parade. Having your own business, while it has its upside, has its downside as well. The day-to-day grind of governmental red tape, when recessions hit or unexpected expenses occur, it can lead to 3 a.m. nightmares, wondering how you're going to make payroll. It does take its toll. It is no wonder brothers left the business over the years, or as Susan James says, to escape. Ron was the first to escape. Always the innovator, he became a pioneer in the field of online journalism and online video broadcasting. First in 1995 with San Diego Magazine, one of the first publications online that provided content just for the web. Then with Time Warner, whose fiber optic network allowed its subscribers to view streaming video content online for the first time, content that was created by Ron and his team. Ron then became managing online editor of the Union Tribune, where his innovations were copied worldwide. During this time, he served as president of the San Diego Press Club for several years. Now, at the age of 74, Ron and his wife Mary are publishers of the multi-award-winning Wine, Dine, and Travel magazine. The magazine features articles and photos of their globe-trotting travels from all corners of the world. When he finds time, Ron is also an accomplished painter as well. Greg was the second escapee. On leaving the James Gang, he fully dedicated himself in raising his kids. As a superfather, he volunteered at his kid's school and became president of the PTA for 5 years. His dedication led to a position as a computer tech for the San Diego Unified School District, where he recently retired after 18 years. Greg and his wife Donna raised 3 kids, twins Courtney and Emily, and son Ryan. Ryan attended University of Santa Cruz, where he was an All-American swimmer. He is currently serving in the Coast Guard on rescue helicopters. He lives in Coos Bay with his wife Irina and his 2-year-old son Adrian. Daughter Emily is a professional photographer living in St. Louis with her husband Aaron, 4-year-old son Atlas, and a 2-year-old daughter, Nyla. Greg's daughter Courtney lives in Ocean Beach. After receiving her master's from USC, she became a school teacher in the South Bay. She recently married Eric, a chemist and avid surfer. Greg and Donna are now both retired, and when not FaceTiming with their grandkids, can be seen riding their bikes around Mission Bay. I left the James Gang in 1992 to become a bartender on Newport Avenue. When not bartending, I taught myself web design. In 1996, I followed my brother's footstep at San Diego Magazine before moving on to the University of San Diego. I currently work for Optum in Mission Valley as a senior computer tech. I moved out of Ocean Beach in 2000 just before the birth of my son Jack. 4 years later, my daughter Kat was born. Jack is now a sophomore at Sonoma State, and Kat is attending Patrick Henry High as a 10th grader. I act on occasion, and I'm still active in politics, organizing UN banners and marching when I get a chance. I'm currently planning my next trip to Mexico, where I hope to retire in 6 years. Rich retired from the James Gang and lived his last 12 years alcohol-free. He traveled throughout Asia, Europe, the Caribbean, and Central America. He continued painting, and when he was not traveling, he could be seen taking his dog Buddy, as well as all the other neighbor dogs, to Dog Beach in the Dolphin Mobile. Rich was finally able to fulfill his dream to have a home in Costa Rica. It was here where he became ill. He was able to return to the U.S., where he was admitted to the Veterans Hospital. He passed a few days later surrounded by family and friends. His mantra was "too blessed to be stressed," something he lived every day. On selling the business, Pat worked as a landscaper before finding a job as an instructor for the Grossmont Union School District, teaching trustees screen printing at a San Diego Sheriff facility. He continues his research of Ocean Beach history at his home on Niagara Avenue, which itself is a museum of Ocean Beach's past. His yard is also a testament to his gardening skills, with native plants, succulents, and an impressive array of staghorns. Susan worked for the Main Street Association as a graphic designer and worked for the late Katie Ellsbury and her bed and breakfast operation. Susan is now a bookkeeper and office manager for a number of businesses here in Ocean Beach. She's an active member of the Ocean Beach Women's Club, and at home, she can be found in the garden growing vegetables that grace their table nightly.
In conclusion, we need to thank the women that were in our lives, who supported us and tolerated us over the years. Our mother, sister, daughters, granddaughters, nieces, wives, ex-wives, and girlfriends. For me, I always imagined Ocean Beach was like an old benevolent grandmother, a little rough around the edges, a few warts, always giving and forgiving, funny and wise, accepting of who I am. For my brothers and I, we are proud to forever be a part of the legend and lore of Ocean Beach.